It was more logistics following everything. Uh, it was mostly uh, catching up after getting a long rest in. Taliesin and Alistair had stayed on the giant castle, passed some information. Taliesin tranced pretty damn quick because he was just gone. Alistair got to talk a little bit with the giant, and there was a little bit of communication between Say and Alistair in regards to we need to get the ship moving. After Say had done some more orbiness with the Palantir, but I'll let her fill in details for that. After that, it was after the long rest. Everyone got up and started taking care of breakfast. Taliesin fed Goblin Unit 2, and the contingent on the castle, as well as others, including Telemon, and made sure his blade was up so that Telemon could get some comfortable rest since he lost his room because those fuckers blew it up. And broad strokes, right before we ended, Alistair decided he was going to fly himself, and he got his Gabo companion, the Union head. God, I can't remember what it was referred to as. But he took her on flight to the ship while Taliesin turned himself into a giant eagle and carried Mirai to the ship. And that's the broad strokes. People can fill in the gaps.
He briefly touched base with the Windrunners, I think. They broke into the prison. They scattered the hobgoblins. They took losses, but they took out more of their forces than they were.
Yeah, Velkin was fucking them up until all of a sudden he ran for some reason.
Almost as though a very important location was under attack.
Was last game the game that we learned that Kaith was still crazy?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Say did not help the situation.
Did we ever get proof of a Goblin Alliance? That was my to-do list, and I can't remember if we actually did that.
Proof of a Goblin Alliance?
Alright, cool. Then we didn't do it. That's going on the to-do for today.
It depends on what you mean by proof of... I might need more details.
Something to show other goblins.
Oh, okay.
Yes, something to essentially give us authority to say, hey, we are above the Uni reps.
Facts!
If we encounter wild gobs out there, splinter factions, what have you, I would assume they are all, have fealty to the crown.
No.
We have, a signet ring to the crown. We're in.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, that wasn't given. So good enough for today. What else from last week?
Alistair took a bunch of pictures in Telemon's castle, and basically filled his picto box up with evidence for Say's eventual trial.
Which might be sooner than we thought.
Good.
Next time we fight a god, someone should whip out the camera real quick.
Yeah, it's an action to take it out, it's an action to take a picture. Just try not to die that's a lot of the action economy right there. So much action economy.
Can we make a specified subclass combat photographer?
Holy shit! As far as other things go, something that stood out to me last game is that on the next day, the day that we opened up before we finished game, Say and Sabine, they talked a bunch, and Sabine seems to have a lot of reservations about how willing the goblins are to throw them to fight and die for her. They had some heart-to-hearts, and it was kind of cool to watch. Just that stuck out. That was also a cool conversation.
I believe some orb conversations were mentioned as well.
Yeah, I forgot who Say talked to in between game versus who she talked to last game before last. She makes a lot of fucking phone calls. She talked to Ilrene. I don't know if that was a
Forum.
That was a forum. She talked to Kaden, which I'm pretty sure was game before last. She talked to Brotha, which I'm pretty sure was forum.
Yep.
Oh, she woke up Vera!
She did wake up Vera.
It antagonized her. Mostly just antagonized her. Nothing useful came out of that conversation other than antagonistic flirting.
Then she called Taro.
And then she called Taro and got some information that was slightly more useful.
Yeah.
He's pretty much of the opinion that, yeah, we killed a god and that's a thing that can happen.
What it means is anyone's guess.
But he's probably the smartest person Say knows, so she's just gonna go with it. If he says so, then that's the case.
And I believe there was one more call that she made. Well, two more, but we already discussed a little bit of Kaith.
I don't remember, genuinely. It's been a little bit.
Okay, I can fill in the gaps. She called Aurelius Kane and
that was last game? I thought that was the game before last. Yeah, she said, don't fucking burn down my port while he was fighting. And he's like, we'll see. And she's like, I said don't burn down my fucking port.
He's like, no promises.
There's also talk of, do not kill the little green things that sort of look like gnomes. And he was like, well, bitch, they keep running away anyway, so, I mean, it's not going to be hard to let them live.
He most certainly did not.
In so many words.
His stance was very much, if they're attacking my people, I'm going to kill them. If they run away, I won't.
Yeah, but he also had said they tend to be running away, so...
This is true. Okay, I think that that about covers it.
Oh, well, there was, let's see. Mirai had slept against Taliesin all night. Taliesin did that frozen in the headlights move where he just didn't move after his trance finish, he just stayed there. And when he was talking about so casually about dealing with the Queen of the Goblins, etc., and Mirai was starting to have her mind melt at, how do you already trust these people? They were your enemies like 5 seconds ago. He's like, you gotta not think too much. And then he kissed her, and then he kept walking and didn't go for an insight check on her. But that was definitely something that happened.
Indeed, there was some breakfasts made. There's Taliesin has the grove opened on Telemon's castle. Faravax is hanging out like a dog with his head out the window on the gatehouse entry to the castle.
He's gonna run with us all the way to Calabash.
That's more or less, without anyone making insight checks, yeah, that's more or less his plan, as he's kind of enjoying a free ride. He's surveying his domain at someone else's expense.
Yep, seeing a portion of his domain that he hasn't bothered to go look at in some time.
It's a new experience. It's interesting.
He's all about new experiences.
When he's not avoiding them for the sake of a nap.
2 songs playing at the same time?
There's one, but the client can mash things together if a song loads on accident. I found that a refresh helps with that. All right, so we kind of left off in the morning, and I want to sketch through the rest of the day real quick. Since it does seem like you'll all be reaching Kaladesh by evening. So I'd like to see what everyone would like to do in the course of this day. We're going to, for the sake of convenience, we're going to assume that you've all figured out how to get back and forth between the airship and the castle.
Say would like to dedicate some time to making some cool-ass fireworks.
Okay.
First, she's going to talk to Telemon about a safe place where she can craft something that might explode.
He would immediately look over at the airship.
I mean, she'll go to the airship.
The glade is open.
The glade is open. That's a whole enclosed space.
Yeah, she'll go to the glade then to make fireworks.
Yeah, Taliesin would go out of his way to let everyone know where the glade was, where he opened it up, so they can come and go as they need, especially if they just need some privacy, etc.
An important note, do you happen to mention what you're doing to anyone?
I mean, maybe offhand, probably.
Okay. Now, there are some goblins moving in and out of the grove. Since now that Taliesin opened it up and they realize they can get like free food in there, it's become a popular hangout spot. And given their own kind of curious nature,
we are not teaching the goblins about gunpowder.
They are very interested in what you're doing until you kind of like slam the door in their faces.
I do it nicely. I'd be like, unfortunately, this is a trade secret. I can't really give it away. Sorry.
Well, shit, I thought she wanted to make things explode.
We're really good at that.
Yeah, well, we can't account for taste.
So on and so forth among the mumbling goblins. All right, go ahead and give me a check of some sort. Tell me what the check should be.
Tinker's tools with intelligence?
That makes sense to me. And with your special cap...
Okay.
Percival, come on.
It'll be whatever this is plus proficiency bonus, which is +4. So a 24.
Hey, there we go. All right, I'm going to say with something like that, yeah, you can make like a batch of 10 fireworks for 1 gold worth of material.
And I'd like to spend a little bit of time working on something more complicated fireworks. I have 13 simple fireworks. I'd like to make something I'd like to make a glowing Faravax firework.
Ooh.
Kind of Gandalf style, but it mundane and it's not magical.
That is interesting. That is going to... And it's going to be the same kind of check, but it's going to be a pretty high DC because that kind of these kind of theatrical fireworks aren't common.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So just a note, you can of course attempt this alone, but you have plenty of materials and people that you know that can assist for better odds, depending on how you want to approach it.
I think I'm going to step out of the glade and reach out to Klinkle.
Klinkle, do you want to build a big firework?
Sure.
You have Klinkle's attention.
I figure when I explain that I want to make a basically, if not life-size, then it may be like 1/4 size Faravax that, is a firework. Klinkle will help me with that.
I'm going to say with Klinkle's assistance, you're going to get advantage on this roll.
Ew, 18.
Right, 18. Well, you're pretty sure you've got something special. You can go ahead and mark down the construction of a special question mark firework. And we're going to say that's 5 silver worth of material. All right, so this will take a little bit of time throughout the morning. While you're mixing up your fireworks, Alistair, what are you doing this morning?
After concluding whatever situation, report that we say, we pretty much filled in the whole Kane situation, right? What should we do this today? I think I would take some time to probe my party members, to ask around and check if there are any things that they need in terms of survivability, in terms of ammunition for their bows, and get a rough game plan for what Alistair needs to devote time to building. I think everyone has, mundane shields. No one has, to my knowledge, magic armor.
That's very true.
Neither has no armor, so.
Say as adamantine.
Jaeger prefers to have no armor, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because I know you have your unarmored defense and unarmored speed, so long as you don't wear armor.
But if Alistair wants to trick out Say's armor with something awesome, she will hand over her breastplate.
It's already adamantine. I don't know if I can't add magic to something that's already magic as far as...
Is adamantine magic, or is it a type of metal? I think it's a DM call.
Alistair, you've been doing some weird magic shit lately. You're not entirely sure what is and isn't possible anymore.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Mechanically, let's just say that it depends on what kind of magic you're putting into it.
Alright. Well,
If you're doing a survey of the party, I think everyone can probably note in chat what kind of armor they have, so he can get an idea of what everyone's rocking.
Well, with Alistair asking around about that, Jaeger was actually wanting to sneak away into the glade to the forge. So while he can't maybe trick out Say's armor If anyone has something that needs, repairing and all that stuff, Jaeger could do that.
All right, Jaeger wants to get reacquainted with the blacksmithing roots.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to do that at all.
I'm going to say even your work draws some goblin attention first, as a few goblins are feeling kind of uppity about their own craftsmanship until they see how hard you can work metal, which kind of puts their workmanship to shame.
Unlike say who's working with trade secrets, Jaeger is willing to give them hints, small notes here and there about how to better fuse the metals and use this instead of this to twist and bend and fire it, then re-sink it in oil one more time to make sure it doesn't just break.
So you also learn a little bit about the differences between metalworking here on Mobius and in their home realm of Gur. It seems like the metal that they're used to working with tends to be a little denser, almost harder to work. The way they describe the smithing practice, it sounds almost like a battle against these minerals, rather than anything calming or relaxing, I guess.
Well, do they have something Jaeger can melt down and just play with? Some broken scrap somewhere, some weapons?
Oh yeah, they've got plenty of weapons and bits of armor that they're wearing made from the same metal. And you can see that the metal they reveal is the same kind of metal you've seen among a lot of weapons and armor among the forces of ruin, which is, it looks very similar to the iron and steel that you're accustomed to, but it seems to be streaked through with different variations of colors, like grays and blacks. Some of the more prized pieces might be streaked with faint, like steel blue veins.
Okay.
You do notice that none of the goblins have the red streak metal.
Then if nobody needs anything from Jaeger, Jaeger's gonna see if he can make a couple of ingots.
Interesting. Okay. Go ahead and give me a smithing tool check based on strength.
I don't know what that was based on.
Strength.
22. Okay. With a 22, kind of along during the same period of time where Say's working on her fireworks, you start to melt down these metals, and you find that the melting point of Gurish metal is a little higher than Mobian metals. So you immediately get to see one reason why it's so hard to work with. Then when you do get the fires burning hot enough and you break out the metal, it is it's tough. It's a tough mineral, tough metal to work on an anvil and fit to a mold. But I would say that you're able to, let's see, how many, just thinking how many ingots you can make with some, by melting down what material you have available to you. We'll say 3 small ingots of Gurish steel.
Okay.
All right, so you are working on that. Kanane, what are you doing this morning period? Following him around as he chats with people and takes notes. Alrighty. Klinkle, is there anything in particular you would like to do outside of assisting say with her special firework?
I need to make potions because everyone needs potions.
Solid potions.
Alright, so you find a nice spot to set up your cauldron and begin brewing up some health potions.
Indeed.
You're going to have a lot of time to work on these, so you know the calculation it takes to make these. As we move through the day, just keep an eye out on how many hours have passed, and that'll lead us to how many potions to make. Taliesin.
Yes, sir.
How are you spending this morning period?
Well, after showing Mirai around the goblin ship and her getting to see everything, honestly, he would at some point harass Say to send a message to his sister, at the very least, through the Orby of Orbs, because she is currently the messenger and can talk to anyone.
Okay.
Just one of those. We're alive. We did a big thing, but it's just too much to talk. Miss you. Hope to see you sometime soon. This shit's weird. Kind of stuff. And then he probably would just spend some of the time walking the deck of the goblin ship, just getting a feel for how an airship moves that isn't powered by etheric stones, because it's definitely different. And if Mirai wanted to head back to the castle, he'd take her back and spend time around her if she wanted him around her, but he's not going to force his presence on her.
All right. So Mirai does spend most of her morning kind of accompanying you around the ship and chatting with some of the goblins as they hurry past. Now that the goblins are allies, she seems very bemused by their presence. Like, they tend to be loud. They tend to kind of push each other around as they move about the ship. But there's an underlying strange geniality among them that she observes when they are not being oppressed or forced to fight. She does linger around the area where you all fought Velkin, and kind of climbs up on top of the deck house where he had perched to kind of get a closer look at there's a large black mark where it seemed like lightning has scoured the deck of the ship, kind of leaving an indelible imprint of a blackened burst where he fell. And she just kind of looks around and takes it in with a distant expression on her face. She doesn't appear too overawed by the airship. Walking among it, even hearing some of the descriptions of the airships you've been on before, she seems to admire it for what it is, but she isn't as awed as you might expect. But otherwise, she keeps in a good cheer.
All right. Well, with her in, can I do an insight check on her examining the whole Velkin's last known position thing?
Yeah. 15. What in particular are you looking for? Or what are you trying to gauge?
I'm trying to gauge her emotional state. Because though Velkin himself was like, why do you keep saying that name? And seemed to not recognize the name, he seemed to recognize her. And Taliesin already had his thoughts on what her situation might be, so he's kind of wondering if he used to be a friend, family member kind of thing, if there's like sorrow in the looking.
You can definitely tell there's not sorrow there. She doesn't appear saddened by his passing. There's an almost academic interest, but there does seem to be something running deeper through her thoughts. Like she does seem a little bothered by his defeat, but not in a regretful way, not in a way that suggests like she had any interest in him being alive. She very clearly does not really care that he's gone. But the fact that you were able to kill him seems to have struck a deeper chord with her and has given her something to think about.
Okay. I'll mark that off as something to talk with her about later. But I'll just let things go because I know that once we get to the port city, there might be just more of everything, and might as well just enjoy the relaxation and quiet while there's a chance, kind of deal.
Alrighty. So moving into the afternoon, catching up with some of the NPCs. As mentioned, Faravax has been lounging about and just taking the day off, so to speak, as though he works so hard every other day of the week. Telamon has kept to his castle. With the castle fully under his control, he's taken time to move throughout the building to kind of assess the damage that's been done, the changes that have been wrought, the installation of certain kinds of weapons along the walls and windows. There's quite a few goblins who trail along with him that seem interested in learning more about the castle and kind of cleaning up the signs of their passage and their stay. It seems like they want to kind of make amends for squatting in his castle, if only to avoid pissing off the giant master of the house now that he's back. It catches him kind of off guard at first, and he remains a little aloof, but upon seeing how willing they are to clear up wreckage and kind of fix things that are broken, I would say by mid-afternoon, he's got a little work crew together, and he's just kind of patrolling the grounds and inspecting their work. Elaine, unless someone is actively searching for him, Elaine is pretty difficult to find.
Is it possible for me to find Elaine before breaking off to go in our separate directions?
Of course. Do you mean to try and catch before the party begins their morning routines, or just catching up with him? Okay.
After catching up and chatting with Say about Kaladesh and the Mayfair and moving and our plan for that, I assume Elaine would be there for that. Alistair will simply invite Elaine to the Forge if he wants to come along and spend time. He's going to be totally like aloof and casual about it.
Okay, the Forge in Talison's Grove?
Yeah. That's where Alistair's going to be heading.
He is surprised and willing.
It's not a big deal. Like, if you feel like it, whatever. Good chat.
No, I'd be very interested to see you in your native elements. I would offer to help, but well, if you have some simple menial tasks, I may be able to assist. I'm not very good around the forge, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, you're clearly not fireproof.
Oh no, very much not.
Where his burns would be if you were not hiding them. Yeah, just don't, catch fire, and if you do catch fire, you put it out. And, menial stuff. Alright, cool. Good.
Alright, Alistair has recruited his father to hang out with him in the forge.
And to touch base upon the stuff that people mentioned in chat, I think Alistair would be... He's spent time going forge to forge through the Dwarf lands and the Mareki lands and seeing, Mithril in action. But I will ask, would he have enough wherewithal to understand how to make Mithril armor? I know that he doesn't have access to Mithril, but he is planning gears turn.
I would say I would like an Arcana check.
Arcana for Logan, okay.
Yep.
Cool beans. 1 sec.
Expected to be ridiculously high.
No, it's only 11 on die for a total of 27. Nope, 25.
Yeah, that's not ridiculously high at all. An 11 on die got you 25.
Expertise is a hell of a drug.
All right. Well, to start with, you need the material. Mithril is a particular kind of mineral that it can be harvested. Aside from that, working it into armor, you feel that you have enough experience working with metals and gems to start to appreciate a certain kind of feel to the materials you work with, particularly the materials that you imbue with magic. Mithril is a material that seems to almost drink in any magic that's nearby. Not in a way that it absorbs magic, but kind of like how... What is it? I'm thinking color theory, where... Is it white that absorbs all colors?
White is a reflection of all colors.
Reflection of all colors.
Black absorbs.
Black absorbs. Kind of, I would say it's the kind of the inverse of that. Mithril tends to soak in ambient magic, and that ambient magic is used to strengthen it.
Okay. That's a Faravax question, it sounds like. Where to get it in that case? I will look into finding it, or perhaps buying it in the future. I needed to know about Mithril so I can ask the more important question. Alistair is aware that some of his friends are not as well trained. Or rather, they don't have the physicality, the general durability or wherewithal to wear heavier armor. I would assume that Alistair knows what Elven Chain is. It's uncommon armor. I believe it is... Well, it's wondrous. Whether or not it's magic, I don't know, but it's made of Mithril. and it's something that elves apparently make, but I don't know if Alistair knows that.
You think that if you had Mithril to work with, you would probably be able to figure it out.
Excellent. So I'll meeting with Klinkle at some point. Alistair will explain to Klinkle that studded leather is light armor is difficult to work with in that it has to be very precise, and once you start to tip the scales in terms of what it's built out of, it becomes exponentially harder to make it protective. It would need magical protection, and he can do it, but it would take weeks to make +1 armor. Essentially, what he would explain is +1 armor. However, if he can get a hold of Mithril, he may be able to make a set of chain that anyone can wear, regardless of their physicality. To Taliesin, he would have much the same answer, but he would ask Taliesin if Taliesin is capable of. He's Mareki trained, right?
Yeah, he's Mareki trained.
To that end, can Taliesin wear medium?
Yes. I can. At least I thought he could.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna pull up my character sheet just to be on the safe side, though.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
double check since you're a druid now. But the difference would be more along the lines of you have worn medium armor. It's just that it's clunky and gets in the way of your connection to the green.
I'm willing to explore all
if that's the case.
Types of armor. If I'm gonna lacquer some wood and do it Otonan style, that's a great reason to keep Kanani around.
Well, that's
partly why he's wearing studded leather. I think that's still technically medium. But yeah, he does have medium armor proficiency.
Studded leather is light armor.
It is light? Okay.
Yeah, because Twinkle only has light proficiency.
There we go.
Okay. Cool. So Alistair will offer to make a set, basically a breastplate for Taliesin. Alistair plans to make it out of, iron or aluminium. But if Taliesin needs it to not be metal, we can workshop that. To that end, or past that end, Alistair would like to collect the shields of his allies and basically let them know, I'm going to boil these down and reforge them into something better. You like it better, possibly maybe. Basically intent on making a couple of +1 shields.
Interesting. Okay.
I know that Taliesin can wield a shield. Say Jaeger and himself can wield shields.
Say can, but will sheepishly hand over conviction, as she rarely uses it these days.
I mean, as long as you hold it, you get the benefit of it. It doesn't take too much time.
Nico will hand over his shield in between, waiting for something to cool.
Cool. And Alistair will explain to say that although he's certain that he could make this armor, he could try to make the armor better, he could try to get the forge hot enough to melt down the adamantine, the process of weaving magic into it would take a long time that they don't have, time that he doesn't want to take away from her wearing it.
Fair enough.
Because it's come in clutch before. So from the DM, if all that is kosher, I know the price of a standard breastplate. I don't know the price of a specialized wooden breastplate, if that's what Taliesin needs. I also don't know the cost of a +1 shield, market value before crafter math gets involved. Breastplate is 750 gold pieces for reference.
Well, I will say that a breastplate made out of wood is probably going to count more along the lines of light armor in terms of the defenses that it offers.
All right. I figured it would be like samurai shogun armor, but that's we gotta find a big snake with hard scales. That's what we gotta do for the druid. Unless
previous editions, there had been certain woods that could go for medium armor for druids.
I'm down for a character arc. I'm down for a character arc. Let's do it. Yeah. So I guess it's up to whether or not the druidic taboo counts here, whether or not Taliesin can wear metal.
Given Taliesin's, well, I'm just going to say the whole idea of druids wearing metal, I don't have strong feelings for that. Taliesin can wear metal. He has worn metal. I would say it has more to do with if I had to justify it, and I'm not 100% committed to justifying the differences, I would say it would have to do with the weight of the material, the interference with, just being able to move about and do things. There's a lot of concerns that get woven into it.
Way back when it was the iron and steel that druids couldn't wear because, oh hey, what's this iron and steel fuck with?
Fey magic.
There might be, I like that idea as well.
I think in 3.5 druids couldn't wear metal, but they could get away with mithril because mithril's magical metal.
Yeah, mithril circumvents a lot of restrictions.
Don't I know it?
But yeah, it's kind of looking for a way to increase his defenses in a way that don't interfere with his magic, or I guess there is that. That I would say is the only caveat. Certain metals tend to react differently with magic, like lead interferes with seeing through things. Yeah, you would be aware of those considerations. The wood you have for these shields are largely just normal wood that may have some magic imbued in them that will likely dissipate if they were to be broken. You feel like if you want to make special wooden armor, you're going to need some special ingredients.
Okay. I guess the question remains then is, should Taliesin wear a regular breastplate? Will he receive a negative penalty if he does so?
If he's proficient with medium armor, he's proficient with medium armor.
All right, cool. Unless Taliesin objects to having a breastplate, then Alistair will commit to making 2 breastplates and 4 +1 shields.
Yeah, the only thing that Taliesin would request when it's getting made is to have certain designs carved into it, reminiscent of the Alrani and things that he's seen in the green, just to keep it as connected to him as possible.
That sounds cool.
So on the other hand, I do know the price of the breastplate. It's a standard breastplate, not magical. +1 shield. It's uncommon.
I believe +1 weapons and armor are uncommon.
Yeah, +1 armor is rare, which is why we're not touching that adamantine breastplate. Common I can do. Rare is a different beast. So yeah, the shield is 750 GP. I don't know how much it would cost to put a +1 enhancement onto to make a +1 shield. Or to buy a +1 shield.
For that would probably be on the lower end of the magic item cost. If you could, I'm going to make you do the work for me.
Sure.
Find me the segment in Tasha's where it talks about crafting magical items.
I believe it's in the shopping list spreadsheet. Alright, so I don't think it's Tasha's, I think it's in Xanathar's guide.
Xanathar's, yeah, it is in Xanathar's.
Uncommon Xanathar's Guide to Crafting Shit. It suggests an uncommon magic item is 200 gold pieces to craft.
Okay, and as I recall correctly, a normal shield is 50.
50 gold pieces. Yeah.
50 gold. Yeah, so 250 gold for a +1 shield. That feels about right for an item like that.
That's like a year's salary for a noble.
That's why those items are... Yeah.
Alright, I'm going to do some quick maths, and I will come back.
A year's salary? That's like a month's allowance for a noble.
Really? Damn, nobles got a good... We got to become nobles. Alright, I'm going to do some math, and I'll be back. Carry on.
Okay. I was going to point out as well, since you're going to be working in the forge, you do get to see Jaeger working with the Gurish steel. So you'll be able to kind of make your own observations on that particular metal as you get to making your own stuff.
Okay. What can I glean from that material? Is it particularly easy to work with? Is it particularly hard to work with?
It's hard to work with. But probably makes good arms and armor. And since, generally speaking, metal tends to suffer some degradation when you constantly melt it down and rework it, keep that in mind as you work on your items. It's not necessarily a one-to-one transfer.
A quick reminder question thing. You said there are veins of red going through the metal, right?
No.
Okay.
These do not have the veins of red. They have veins of like silver and gray and black.
Okay. I misheard earlier. That's why I wanted to double check. Thanks.
Yep. I will be right back. Just need a minute or two to help my mom to the car. Chat amongst yourselves and think about anything you would like to do in the afternoon before you show up to Kaladesh, because I'll be asking about that next.
Sorry.
Be right back.
Time with math. Fuck math. All my homies hate math.
I have returned.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome back.
Everyone still here?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. All right. All right, jumping back in. Alistair is working on his new crafting project. Elaine and Konane are hanging out, being quote-unquote helpful. Moving into the afternoon, the last things that the party would like to do before you hit Kaladesh.
Go over my gear with a fine-tooth comb to be inspection level ready.
All right, you have everything you need between all three of your resources, the grove, the castle, the airship, 4 resources, people. Magic can go a long way to getting the dirt and stains out of clothing and armor, so yeah, I'm going to say there's no trouble getting all your gear in pristine condition to prepare yourself for the arrival.
Taliesin will warn Mirai of how pompous and terrible Kane is to deal with, and kind of reassures her to just go with the flow and try not to overthink anything, because this is going to be kind of messy.
Yes, I've gathered that impression. All right, I'll take your word for it. I'd like to see this warlord for myself. Perhaps not from a very close distance, if possible.
Well, I mean, we are going to be in the air, and he will be on land at first, and he will be the dominating force. Whatever. And I look over and say, "We're not going to be prisoners this time, right?"
No.
Thank you.
I firmly object to being prisoners at any time. I'd like to see someone try to imprison me again.
Yeah, that wouldn't end well for them.
She is pleased. All right, rest of Valor Company, any preparations you guys would like to make?
Just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, how many hours total do we have to work? You said we'd be riding by evening?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me do some very loose calculating. Judging by...
I mean, it was early morning when we started last game. I need 8 hours.
I don't think it was early morning because it was after midnight when you guys finished the fighting and were able to wind down. I think you guys slept in.
Oh.
I know that Alistair didn't sleep.
Oh yeah, you woke me up. No, I was already up.
Yeah, you were up before I came by with Mirai.
How was I doing? Preparing spells.
I'm going to say that by the time the going back and forth, having breakfast, getting a lot of the early stuff done, you probably won't be able to begin solid work on your projects until noon. And your arrival... I'm going to say it's about 6 p.m. When you approach Kaladesh.
Okay. I can get some of my project done then. Alright, so, accounting for quick math and stuff and assistance in Forge, last question I have is, can I offset any of the building cost by using materials that we have?
Yes.
Okay. Total build cost is going to be 412 gold pieces.
I believe you have... Well, you've got a lot of precious materials that you could use as well.
We do. I can just build extra stuff and we can have a bunch of extra shields in the bag of holding.
I'm going to say for recycling purposes, one shield which retails for 50, so it can be made for about 25. I'm going to say to get them, each shield is only going to yield about 10 gold worth of materials. So you can recycle that. And then remember, Aether Stones can always be used for arcane ingredients as well.
Right. I think Alistair's going to flex. I think he's going to flex and build these without Aether Stones.
That is a flex.
To explore the space and try to better understand just what he's working with as far as the gauntlets go. The bracers, rather. I would like to deduct the raw cost of everything, 302 from the treasury. Does anyone object?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, good.
No objection here.
I will only be able to make one breastplate, but I can make the 4 shields. So Taliesin, I'll ensure that the Aloranic breastplate is in your possession by the time we get to Kaladesh. I have to roll some checks, though.
Oh, while he's rolling that. Last call, anything special anyone would like to do for preparing?
So I crunched some numbers, and 4.1 hours gets me 10 normal healing potions. All I have written down for stuff is the lines for normal healing potions, not like the uncommon version. Either you or Rob know off the top of your head.
The cost to make it, or...
Yeah, because because I could extrapolate the cost to make it from like the time from the common to uncommon.
Yeah, so it's 4 hours to craft a uncommon healing potion. DC is 14. I don't know what it costs, how much it would cost to make.
That is kind of what I'm doing some quick research into as well.
Because after doing the 10 normal healing potions, if I can crank out 1 or 2 graders.
Yeah, Xanathar's Guide to Crafting shit, it is half price for a consumable. So an uncommon consumable would be 100 gold pieces to make.
Yeah, that actually matches with something I pulled up as well. So yeah, potion of greater healing would be about 100 gold worth of materials.
I still think the freaking economy of these things is stupid.
You're not wrong.
Especially in games that don't run gold to XP.
I think it's also scaled for potions and costing for lower level adventurers. Once you get into the higher levels, then it becomes even more strange.
Well, like, I picked up a thing that said that the rarity is all 4 of them. 10d4 plus 20. That's a very rare potion.
Was that the potion of supreme healing?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's crazy.
That's like a healthy amount of healing at like level 10.
Or if you're a caster. 30 hit points is no laughing matter. And that's the minimum. Anyway, we can make a note to revisit some of those potions later.
But I'd like to crank out 10 normals, and if I can squeeze in 2 graders.
If your crafting time allows for it, then I'm perfectly fine with it.
I think if it's not, it's within like 10 minutes. crunch numbers.
Go ahead and crunch some numbers. Rob, if you could assist with that, if you please.
Sure.
Takes about 80 minutes. So.
All right. Just double check the math. Like I said, you've got several hours to work on it. So if we can confirm it, I've got no problems retroactively saying, like, you spent that time doing it.
I forget, does my class bonus stack with if there's a lab? Or,
like brewing...
workshop station?
Yeah, usually if there's a lab that gives you the chemical components and stuff that you can use, then there would be a bonus.
There's absolutely has to be one on the airship.
Oh yeah, goblin, especially with the flame-throwing goblins, I would say that there's some kind of chemistry area. There is workshops on there where they maintain the engines and do their own weapon creation. So yeah, I'd say you'd get a bonus from that. Rob, would you mind running the math for me?
Sure, I just finished up. There isn't a set modifier in the supplement for labs. I would assume it's like advantage on the check.
Oh, is that what it is for Artifice?
Artificer, it's +5 gold to your building time. So
we'll do that.
Okay. So it would effectively double your speed.
Okay. So does that mean I'm working with ×6 speed?
I believe it would be whatever the time it would take you. Cut that in half.
Yeah. So I'm working with, I believe, ×3 from the class. So.
Okay.
Then yeah, I think I got enough time to crank out a couple greater heat potions.
Let's check. Yeah, I'll check with you when I have.
Ended up being like half an hour over if we've got a 6-hour cap, without the workshop bonus.
What were you saying, Jaeger?
How long would it have taken for Jaeger to make those ingots?
I'm going to say 2 hours for the 3 of them.
Okay. When Jaeger's would have started looking through Alistair's bag of holding, this see if they had any bone. I'm looking through it and they don't. But there is a wand of the War Mage that is broken. What would it take to fix that?
That would honestly only really need probably a new hilt, and then fixing some of the runic work on it. That one would be less of a smithing check and probably more of a tinkering check.
Well, if Jaeger is able to make a hilt out of some metal scraps, he would gladly at least get that part done and let Alistair work on the runic.
That can definitely be done. You can turn it into a Gurish wand of the War Mage by combining some materials.
Yeah.
Okay, I would definitely like to revisit that idea later. Give me a smithing check. Yeah, a small little wand and some new casing isn't going to take too long to make. So we'll math it out a little later. But if you work with Alistair, we'll say we can combine the effort put into the item to create something interesting.
Yeah, I know Alistair's like really busy with stuff, so while Jaeger will take it out and like let Alistair know what he's doing, he's not gonna press Alistair about like finishing the runic right now, but it's like it'll be there when he's ready.
Cool. Interesting idea. All right, so around 6 o'clock, you all see the first signs of Kaladesh that you see is the tendrils of smoke rising into the air. Not the thick, constant billow of a town that is actively on fire, but the more dispersed smoke of recent fires and maybe a few small ones that are still going. As the airship in the castle gets closer, and I should point out that during the travel to Kaladesh, you did pass a few more of the goblin balloons that at least 2 of them began to trail in your wake, not being able to move as fast as the castle or the airship. But with the ship approaching, you see the port town itself is covered by this smoky haze. It sits on the mouth of a river that opens up into a bay, cluttered with little rocky islets, making the entry to the city a little hazardous. Even more hazardous now that the bay is full of ships. In fact, you see a lot of ships, both in the water and in the air. There's a handful of airships grounded near the waterfront. One wrecked on a beach, a handful of others at anchor inside the bay itself, amidst a good dozen or more of ocean-faring Mareki naval ships. Half of those in the ocean are smoldering wrecks or half submerged. There's about 7 airships that you can see are visible and in working order, most all of them grounded or floating in the sea. Most airships are not functional in the ocean, so these are definitely being held. The mouth of the river, as you all approach and kind of gather at the railing of the airship to look down, you can see the mouth of the river is where the shipyards were. Shipyards that are now largely burnt down and destroyed. The town itself is built around a central stone fort, built more for function over aesthetics, that squats upriver. There's a wooden palisade wall encircling the entire town, with stone walls being erected near the beach, although the level of construction suggests that this was a town that was still actively being built, and so many of the defenses had not yet been established before this naval fleet came to town. There's a couple areas that seem clouded by smoke and haziness, but it seems like the scars of the burning city have kind of smoldered down, and as mentioned, nothing is really on fire anymore.
Is Faravac still roosting?
Yes, he is. He's kind of, if you were to check on him from where you are on the ship, you would see him looking down at the town with an unreadable expression on his face. He's just kind of sitting, legs tucked under him, tail slowly sweeping back and forth.
Well, I can't use the orb to find the Maether because I've already talked to him within the last 24 hours, so I guess we just approach.
Oh, yeah, so part of that plan about returning to port, I mentioned to say earlier in the day. So, if we need to send a message across, how about big bug letters in the sky?
Sure.
Alright, I'll have it there. Alistair's going to basically prepare Skywrite, but he'll leave the message in Say's hands.
I think it's just going to say Valor Company has arrived.
Alright. So, with the message programmed into the magic, Alistair's going to take out what appears to just be, it looks like one of Say's pointed bullets, made of glass, with fins on the sides, much like the device that Taliesin had seen him strapped to his shield earlier. He plugs both ears and takes a step back as this little rocket fires off of the bridge of the ship. Explodes in the air as clouds begin to shift and twist and turn, producing Valor Company has arrived in the sky, well within viewing distance of our good friend the Nathir.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Well, that's pretty flashy.
It remains for 1 hour.
The Queen Bean observes as she sidles up to look over the railing next to you all.
I'm not always exceptionally humble. Sometimes a bit of flashiness is good.
You won't find any disagreement from me.
I've always said you need to put some more respect on your name.
I need a maker's mark for sure.
Nothing says I'm here to kick ass rather than arriving under your own banner with a giant floating castle, a dragon, and an airship to your name.
I'm hoping so.
I'd say the first impression goes to us.
All right, how do you descend into the city?
Is there a good central spot where can I roll an insight check on the Mathir?
You don't have to. As soon as your eyes landed on the fort in the center of the town, you know that is where any self-respecting Mareki commander would drive his attack to.
Cool. Is there a spot above the fort that we can anchor?
With an airship of this size, it can get in close, but there's no anchorages for it. But with airships, they're not like it's not going to just float off into the distance if you don't park it. Like, it will kind of like hover where you want it to go. And you can see as the airship dips closer to the town, there are some tents that have been set up on top of the fort. And you recognize Mareki organization, where it looks like at some point the top of the fort was turned into a kind of lookout, which bodes well since it means the Mareki control the fort.
Clinkle, Alistair, do you have Featherfall prepared today?
Right in the sky. Be prepared to fall.
How do you feel about a little bit of skydiving?
I was starting to think you'd never ask.
Queen Sabine, how do you feel about, like, jumping out of the airship and floating to the ground?
The Goblin Queen opens her mouth, closes it, looks down at herself. Her her big billowy black dress.
Yeah, you know what? That sounds flashy. I like it. You got room for me and my clubber?
Between the two of us, we should be able to cover 12.
Alright, sounds good.
All right, so figure out how many.
Fire him off rapid fire too.
Pew, pew, pew.
Does Telemon count as one?
Oof. I would say if you approach Telemon to see if he would like to join you in the town, he is reluctant to do so. He doesn't wish to be involved in any ground affairs more than he has to be, and this seems very much like an affair between Valor Company and the Mareki, more than the forces of Ruin and the forces of Mobius. You can, if you would like, make a persuasion check to see if you can sway him to join you.
No, I'm being completely a petty bitch, but I think we'll get further if we have a little bit of firepower standing behind us.
If you were to ask my opinion, I would suggest that the presence of a Cloud Giant's castle is considerable clout when dealing with any land dweller.
Fair enough.
More like a cloud giant, am I right?
Alistair.
I'm sorry, I'm giddy. I just really hate this guy.
No, that was a good one. I really like that one. Good job.
Right, let's go dive off a ship and into the middle of the Mareki war host.
Woo!
Should I summon my owls?
All right, so what I heard, Taliesin, I saw you light up. Did you want to add something?
Oh.
Yeah, apparently I had myself muted. I said, should I summon my owls as well?
No.
But
16 giant owls and us coming down.
Let's just leave it and go.
All right.
There's such a thing as too ostentatious. So, in regards to Featherfall, what I heard is you basically have the means to bring whoever you want and however many people you want with you.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So among your NPCs, you've got the Queen. She's bringing her personal bodyguard, her clubber, as she called her. Elaine, Mirai. Anyone else you would like to bring? If there's no one in particular, the Queen is just going to fill it up with some of her... Fill up the slots with her harem.
I would
suggest the assassins. That's just Taliesin. The triplets, as it were.
Oh yeah, you can see when the potential for extra spaces opens up, the Queen definitely motions to the triplets, and you hear her refer to them as her stabbers.
Sorry, I was talking to Rob about some sheep maintenance stuff. Are the stabbers coming?
So long as the slots are open, and it sounds like you can open up as many slots as you want. Yeah. Red, blue, and yellow. They form up around the Queen Bean and her bodyguard, the tall gobliness in armor.
Yeager in particular seems pleased that the stabbers are in tow.
Cool, let's go.
All right. So, leaping from this airship into the middle of a recently conquered port city, Valor Company takes to the air and drops immediately, gaining speed only to slow down once you hit a certain velocity, which makes the fall a lot more tolerable for those of you who might be a little more put off by heights than others. Queen Bean is full-on Princess Peaching her way through the air. her clubber is doing uncontrolled cartwheel through the air as she can't figure out how to correct her fall. And the 3 stabbers are approaching the dive in various degrees of grace and acrobatics, giggling and laughing all the while. Elaine gave a little whoop as he jumped off with everyone. And as one, Valor Company descends down to the top of this fort. During your descent, you can see that the yard around the fort is dotted with tents. You can see a good number of Mareki soldiers have formed up and are watching your descent with weapons at the ready, but it seems they have received some sort of command that is keeping their archers at bay. You see that there are goblins scurrying here and there all around the fort, which suggests some level of autonomy. The front gate of the fort has been completely blown inward. There looks like there had been an explosive blast there at some point. And as you descend on top of the roof, a number of Mareki officers and senior soldiers have arranged themselves around a open space to await your arrival. As you all get close to the ground, you feel your descent abruptly slow to a sudden stop as you lightly come to rest on your feet atop the fort in the shadow of the airship and the castle, with what appears to be a Mareki command squad before you. Say, you see that the Maethir is not among those greeting you, but the Mareki that seems to be in command here has all the markings on his uniform of a high-ranking captain in the Mareki army. If you had to place him, and I'd say you would place him, you would recognize him as the captain of the first company of the Mareki army. Pretty much.
Would I know who the captain of the first company of the Mareki army is? And I would like to argue that Say would, because as when I was in Sea Cadets, I had to drill and memorize like who the Secretary of the Navy is and shit like that.
Oh yeah, even without arguing, I would definitely say that you would know, because officers of that level are, yeah, they're well known.
So I'd know his name?
Yep, 1 second.
Bubba.
Yes. You recognize this dark-eyed, dark-haired Mareki captain as Maros Vesuvian.
Okay, Say will step forward. Good evening, Captain Vesuvian.
Gunslinger Kyrell. Welcome to Port Kaladesh.
You can see by the way he's standing and greeting you, your background tells you that he is greeting you as one would greet a respected rival from a I don't want to say antagonistic nation, but one on which you're not on great terms with. So congratulations, you're being seen as much higher above your station than you would have been used to. It seems Valor Company has gained a reputation.
Is the Maethir available?
He is regarding some maps down below, but we were told to bring you to his presence as soon as you arrive. Is this all of your party that will be joining us?
For now, Varavax and Telemon will stay above. I assume you're not going to try and tie us up this time, then?
See, his eyes are... He's currently staring at the goblins as they dust themselves off and, look around, kind of take stock of the situation. The queen is kind of brushing off her dress and approaching Valor Company to stick close to everyone. I'm sorry.
Oh, the last time I walked into a Mareki Warhost, it was less than pleasant.
Out of character. The Suvian sounds really familiar. Is this the same motherfucker?
The same one as...
That we met at the fight between the Alarani and the Mareki.
He would definitely...
Yeah, about to say, is he just pretending not to remember, or...
No, he was distracted.
He doesn't remember us.
Yeah, he was distracted, which is why he responded that way. But no, you would have encountered him at that meeting back when you were first brought to the Maythir on the plains. Yeah, he's beneath Luthadel. He would have been one of Kane's right-hand men. He doesn't have the kind of reputation that Luthadel had, or even that Kane had. As far as you can recall, he was known as he's a loyal soldier, very good at what he does, and is valued for his sense of duty and practicality. So when you bring his attention to the method of your arrival, and he tears his attention away from the goblin party, no, I don't believe that would be necessary. Circumstances have changed considerably since our last interaction.
Right, why don't you show us to the Maythir, then?
Of course. And he gives a quick little signal to the other soldiers on the rooftop, which is just a signal to keep watch. There are 4 soldiers who kind of line up with him as he turns and leads the way over to a set of stairs that descend down into the fort. Potion making, adding karma to the pool.
It's a skill check. I'm assuming that it's chemistry's happening.
Addressing that real quick, was that a natural 20 on a normal potion?
Normal potion.
Normal potions, yeah.
All right, I'm going to say if you roll natural 20 on a normal potion, bump up the quality of that potion.
Ooh.
Oh.
All right. Valor Company, you gather up and you head into the fort after the first captain. He leads you down the stairs, and your first impression of the fort is there's kind of a rough, unfinished look to the inside. It's very kind of bare bones, very functional, very straightforward. Definitely feels like something that was erected to serve a purpose and wasn't built for decoration or vanity or anything like that. It kind of fits with the general feel of Kaladesh being a town that was hastily established to provide a service as regularly as possible, with improvements being made over time. the first captain leads you to a room with a heavy oak door. He knocks on it lightly, pauses, and then enters, and you follow him in. And you can see inside the room, it looks to have been a meeting hall. There's a large table in the center with several maps laid out. There are little blocks of wood and stone positioned in the center of the table to create a little model of the veil. And there's a number of Mareki officers inside reviewing the maps, taking notes, and kind of at the center of them all, looking down across the table, one arm across his chest, the other balanced atop it so he could rest his chin in his hand as he contemplates what's before him, is Mathier Aurelius Kane. You see he is still dressed in his armor, which is dirty with ash and soot and blood. His hair has been pulled back and tied into a simple warrior's knot. I'm trying to think of how I described it before. His flat, kind of emotionless eyes are on the table, and he doesn't look up as you all enter, and the first captain comes to attention just inside and announces, "My lord, Valor Company has arrived." Several of the other officers kind of look over to regard you and your companions with varying levels of curiosity and disdain.
Disdain, that's interesting.
We did
Alistair.
jump in the middle of a battle and prevent it from being fought, as well as kill Luthadel, so disdain feels about right.
What are you saying, Alistair?
Alistair's just got this kind of expression that just says, long time no see.
There's a moment of silence as the Mathier slowly lowers his arms and grips the edge of the table before leaning forward to study the shoreline of his little model.
Congratulations on taking the port. It was the last piece we needed.
Congratulations on securing the veil. I suspect that is the enemy flagship that you've brought with you.
Yes, it is, along with our allies' castle.
I see. And do you know the disposition of the enemy troops deeper within the veil?
Okay, I'll step forward to the model.
Some of the officers actually step back to give you access.
Hobgoblin Command is here. We hold it. Their troops dispersed into the woods around it. Seems disorganized. The collapsed gate is here. That's where they were bringing in reinforcements from the other plane. We've destroyed it, but there was still a significant amount of orcs there when we did. Killed a bunch of them, but I don't know if all of them have been eradicated. The mine here has collapsed, and I'll point out the mine. Most of them were killed. We took several prisoners of war that tried to escape and were summarily executed. The goblins, though, have been very reasonable and turned allies. And the ruined citadel here was practically abandoned. The thing in it that they were courting destroyed most of the enemy troops before we even got there. And then we destroyed the thing that destroyed the enemy's troops, so... As well as the general there.
Talus will pipe up. And the destruction of that force there returns the ability for long-range communications again.
As you spoke, Say, you saw one of the nearby officers, a scribe by the looks of it, had glanced at Kane, and the Maythier had just tapped the table with one of his fingers, and the scribe began taking notes, and you can see some of the other officers had gathered up some colored stones that they then brought over to begin mapping out your victories across the Vale and changing some of the dispositions of what they understood about the forces of ruin here.
There's a small city called the Refuge here. It is filled with mostly, it's peaceful in nature and has been offering us supplies and operating as our home base while we were in the Vale. We have ensured its safety and left people there in charge of its protection.
He nods slightly. You've done impressive work since you left Kelmar.
I'm a Chirel. There's only one type of work.
You see, he doesn't visibly respond to that as he straightens up and folds his arms across his chest. He now turns his attention to Valor Company, kind of looking across the party. His eyes rest on Taliesin for a long moment before moving on, eventually coming to rest on the goblins, at which point Queen Bean steps forward.
Well, if this is the kind of hospitality I'm to expect from the Mareki elves of this planet, I have to admit I'm sorely disappointed.
Yes.
And there's a brief moment where all the Mareki in the room kind of turn towards her.
I apologize. This is Queen Sabine of Gur. She is the queen of the goblins.
You're pleased to make my acquaintance.
Yes. I love it so much.
Kane blinks a little bit. This is the one that the creatures have been speaking of, that have encouraged them to rise up against the rulers of this city.
You're damn straight, and I'm right here, by the way. You can talk to me.
There's another kind of stunned silence in the room.
Can I do an insight check on Kane, just to see how flummoxed he is being asked to address this small green person?
Yeah, indeed.
Kanani kind of leans and whispers the opposite.
14 on die, so dirty 20.
All right, would anyone else like to make checks?
Why not?
I'll follow that.
Yeah, no, Taliesin is currently just trying to hold Marai's hand and stay calm and not make a diplomatic nightmare. So.
All right. The Maythier is a notoriously difficult read. To everyone around him, the majority of the time, he seems to be in control of the situation, in control of himself. He doesn't show what he doesn't want to be shown. And that's why Alistair, you're the only one who notices the slight pressing of his lips and the narrowing of his brow and just the faint body language of someone who is annoyed.
I'd like to chalk it up to having long since learned to read my alchemy professor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's there's definitely some there's some connection there, and you can see it's like in that moment you can see that thread that links the Illyrian elves to the Mercian elves. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? You are distant relatives. My apologies, Your Majesty. I'm afraid you've caught me at a difficult time.
Yeah, well, it's difficult for all of us. Get in line.
And she starts to head over to the table and points to the nearest Mareki.
You, tall guy, bring that stool over here. I need to see the table.
The Mareki actually twitches to move and then pauses and looks at Kane, and Kane nods his head. And a stool is brought over so Queen Bean can join you at the table.
All right, so did you kill all my people here? Or are there still, some in working order? Kind of need them to rebuild things and fortify this place if we're going to move forward with whatever the hell this is turning into.
There's a large union still located at the refuge that we can perhaps move over.
There's another pause before Maythier speaks up again. I'm afraid there were some killed in the fighting, but when they began to throw down their weapons, we moved to secure those that we could. Of late, it appears they've received some sort of clandestine communication that has made them considerably more helpful than they had been when we first arrived. Now it appears they're all too eager to assist us in ensuring this town is under our control. It is a relief, as the cells beneath this fort are currently occupied by the taskmasters and warriors of the upper army who defended this place.
Well, that means you probably got Hobbs and Shadakai down there. Yeah, to be honest, you could have just killed them, saved everyone the effort.
Didn't say kill every Shadowkai? I believe she did.
The Maythier kind of cocks his head to the side as that seems to be a course of action that kind of aligns with something he would like to do.
Yeah, no, Sid totally told him to kill all the Shadowkai.
Well, I'm not a fan of executing unarmed prisoners. I generally agree that they are beyond salvageable or recruitable, and if anything else was done with them, they'll immediately come back.
We can't send them home?
It's a lot of people to send back.
If not a mass go home magic?
I feel it appropriate to point out that we may have done something about the only way we could have sent them back.
Right, yeah, portal. So that's out of commission.
Perhaps not the only way, but, the most reliable way of transferring a great number of people.
Right, or doing it en masse. As far as I know, there are 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 people throughout the entirety of the Vale who can send one creature at a time back to Gur. We're dealing with entire armies here. Unfortunately, to do so humanely, and it's awful to say, you'd have to devote so much time to imprisoning, policing, maintaining obedience for long enough to do so.
How many are imprisoned? Exact counts, please.
He gives a exact count because no, I did not make a list of everyone imprisoned.
No, that's fine. When he gives the exact count, does it sound like something a contingent of Mareki could handle transporting to Hobgob Command, which is a literal prison?
It sounds like enough that a column would be warranted. Like, it would not be like just like a simple, 1 or 2 cartfuls. Like, it seems like they battered enough of the defenders into submission that they have a considerable amount of prisoners at the moment. But pointing out the Hobgoblin prison is a very good suggestion, since, like you said, that place was kind of built to hold people.
Well, we took down the thing that gives them hope in this land, so at least the Shadar-kai we know are going to fight till they die. I'm not so sure about the Hobgoblins, but they don't seem too intelligent from when we last ran into them.
Oh yeah, no. Hobs, if they're beaten, you can count on them to look for any opportunity to stab you in the back so they can keep fighting, but they're not zealots or anything. But by the same token, you can't really reason with them either.
That brings up the question one more time of what happens when they get back. They're re-recruited into their former armies.
And then they have inside information about our operation.
Yeah, exactly why we should kill them.
It would be unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they live so far away, but it is the way it likely has to be.
They came to our world to subjugate, enslave, and destroy. I have no qualms about giving back in kind.
You're not. My only selfish request is that they be killed quickly.
Monster inclines his head. Green, though, unfortunately.
This prison represents an interesting opportunity, but it would take some realignment of resources to allocate the personnel necessary to escort and garrison such a place. There are also a considerable number of civilians in the lower city that were captured from airships passing through the area and ships that were downed at sea.
I was curious about that, if any of them were, not... If anyone in the city was actually not from the other realm.
Kane nods. There are a considerable number of humans here, as well as the scattering of other races. Merchant crews, mostly. Sailors, laborers. From what we've been able to gather, it seems that those who are garrisoned here would secure any ships or airships that flew too close, recommission them for use in their military, rearm and recrew them with their own people, and put their captives to work here. I'm afraid we don't exactly have ships to spare for escorting them to their requisite homelands. And there still exist ships put out to sea that our outriggers have been monitoring. Elaine slowly moves forward to kind of look over the map on the table. So it occurs to me that it would be in everyone's best interest if we were to arrange some sort of operational government within this town, yes? Someone to oversee the nature of affairs in the Vale that would free up some military personnel to attend to military matters, yes?
I was considering a council. Obviously, Queen Sabine and the Maythea, as well as inviting the head of the Windrunners. And I was also going to reach out to Janica. Princess Janica in Skyhammer.
I'd like to lean in to say, and just very quietly, not quite in her ear. Also, there's Drummond of the Refuge. Since they're going to be neighbors, I think it would be prudent to include them as well.
It's a good idea. Drummond might not come himself, but he'd be happy to send a representative.
I lean in again. And there's Farabax who kind of owns the Vale.
I'm sure Farabax, owner of the Vale, will be happy to appoint a champion.
This brisk nod.
As you mentioned Faravax, you hear the clatter of like running footsteps coming down the hall as a soldier bursts into the room looking terrified. My lord, there a dragon has appeared over the city.
Yes.
Do not attack it.
That's Faravax, he owns the city.
Do you have any goats?
Say, you're close enough to Kane. Give me an insight check.
Sure. Would anyone be opposed to me using the one in the pool?
Say it again out loud.
Can I use something from the pool?
Yeah, there's a considerable amount in there.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Oh, Jesus!
All right. Taliesin, I'm going to give you the opportunity as well, since you have beef with the Maythea, and you're always kind of watching him whenever he's in the room.
Oh yeah.
Give me a second though, because I realized that I didn't see what made people say "oh fuck" when they rolled, which means my game froze. So I have to get back in here for a second.
Neither did my thing show. So.
Like, I laughed at the comment about in the pool because I put them there.
Yep.
I don't like anything either.
I don't have any gunslinger things that would help me with this, do I?
Not really. This is purely observational reading. And Kane is a hard read.
Say's too distracted by fuck, don't hurt Faravax.
Is it okay with everyone if I use one in the pool to get advantage here?
Yeah, go for it. So say use one, and also use another in the before.
You just rolled a 10 and you only rolled 1, so roll again.
Hey!
Hey!
Back in the pool!
Wait! Shit!
Okay. Wow.
One is dead.
Taliesin, in the commotion of the soldier coming in and jumping in to kind of say that the dragon's okay, don't harm the dragon, and everyone just kind of quickly ruffled up by the sudden appearance of a dragon, you see a crack in Kane's carefully controlled demeanor. Kind of since the first time, out of all the times you've seen him, you see a momentary slip of that mask and a fire in his eyes lights up, a smoldering rage that immediately surges to the surface, and his hand moves to rest on the pommel of the sword at his waist, not to draw it, but just to hold on to something. And you can see his attention turn to Say, and his jaw clench and his eyes narrow. And then the mask comes back up and he has control once more. You have a dragon.
Fargavax is an iron dragon, a metallic. He's the protector of the Veil and was very critical in the fight to take back the Veil.
Fought valiantly against Vulcan himself. 'Twas a sight to behold.
You see him go to speak, pause, and clench his jaw again. I see. This dragon, you mentioned he is lord of this Vale. This is his territory.
It is.
And you know where he nests.
I do.
Pray tell, what area of the Vale should be avoided?
The refuge. They are his most favorite.
He looks over, down at the map, narrows his eyes slightly and nods. He looks over at the soldier who rushed in.
I want an insight check, because...
I'm not trusting that either. That's the reason I didn't say the exact location, but the general. So I'm like, I don't trust that he's not gonna. No, yeah, of course it's gonna happen to me.
Good obfuscation.
With an 18, say, I would say that you recognize that he has filed away an important bit of information. Which, if there's a dragon roosting nearby, who wouldn't want to know what area to avoid? It's perfectly natural.
Would you care for an introduction?
I believe I would.
And he looks over to the soldier.
Go and spread word among the others. The dragon is not to be harmed, so long as he does not harm any of us.
And he looks over to you, say,
I believe that is a equitable arrangement.
Seems fair enough to me. He ate quite a few Shadar Kai last night, so he's probably full.
he will gesture you to lead the way.
I'll lead the way.
Taking us outside. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around here and talk to all these fancy-looking guys with the pens and papers. I think there's a couple more notes they ought to be taken.
All right. Do you need a detail?
Nah, we got it.
As you wish, Your Majesty.
The triplets are just kind of like lounging around the corner of the table. Her guard has moved up beside her and is glowering at the taller elves around them.
I want at least one of these Mareki guards to like be having uncomfortable feelings about these fucking goblins.
Give me a general insight check.
They're like gnomes, but weird.
More like, oh no, why is it cute?
You spot one officer in like the corner of the room, one of the guards who is like trying not to ogle, but is very clearly ogling the goblins.
That's all I needed. I'm not going to do anything with the information.
Even upper level military Mareki are not immune to certain goblin charms.
In this setting, goblin are fey. They have a very inherent charm to them.
So I guess we're gonna go up, and I will pull out the Palantir.
Ironically, that could be why the goblins are so effective against the elves. They're not fey.
They're just weird.
All right. The soldier that came in carrying word of Faravax's arrival is walking alongside you as you head back up to the roof. The Maethir following, the first captain and his entourage flanking him. You pull out the Palantir. Remember that you do speak out loud when you use it.
I do. Faravax, if you would be kind enough to grace us with your presence, there are people who would like to meet you.
As you send your attention diving into the Palantir, you get a glimpse of Faravax pretty much just outside. Like, he has just come to land inside the yard and is kind of like standing with his chest puffed out and looking down at the Mareki guards with a unimpressed expression on his draconic face. His wings kind of like partially outspread. There's definitely kind of this standoff as the Mareki have all kind of shrank back against the walls and have taken cover, and they've got their spears out and watching it. And no one's making a move without being commanded. When you reach out to him, there's a snort. I am here. And you see him rumble that out loud, and the Mareki kind of shrink back a little bit.
Alright, I break the connection and put the Palantir away, because clearly he's already landed, and this is a non-issue. And Say is just moving, so I want to make sure that everyone knows that Say's vibe is completely like, yes, this is just a normal day. This is a normal day as Captain of Valor Company. No fear, no hesitation, not even, barely even rushing. Just normal. This is normal.
All right, you head back up onto the rooftop, and you can see the soldiers that were left on here have all moved to the edges of the parapets. Some have bows and arrows, some have crossbows. They're all kind of watching. The guard that carried word to the Maethir, he split off from you halfway through the fort so he could give word to those below. As Kane emerges up onto the roof, he raises a hand to signal the others to stand down.
Yeah, Say approaches Faravax without fear.
Yeah, almost kind of as though sensing that you were all moving into position. Faravax leans back and turns towards the fort. And he's easily large enough that he stands up on his hind legs and he rests one claw on the parapet of the top of the fort. And he rears his serpentine head back to look down at you and lowers his head closer to all the Mareki.
I'll bow my head in deference.
Kane pauses, hand on the pommel of his sword, again in a resting, wary position rather than a threatening one, as he regards Faravax lowering his head. And he slowly takes a few steps forward. Faravax kind of chuffs a little bit, his eyes flicking to you, say,
Great and mighty Faravax, this is the Maethia Kane, Aurelius Kane. He is a leader to the south of us that has come to liberate your lands from the invaders.
A rat catcher to catch the rats infesting my lands.
And he turns his gaze onto the Maethir. And Kane stands firm, his shoulders squared. He does not kneel or bow his head to Faravax, but instead meets him eye to eye. And you see Faravax study him for a moment, his pupil kind of dilating as he focuses in. There's a low rumble in the back of Faravax's throat.
I see.
And Faravax slowly draws his head back to look across the others.
I see where this people gets their fire from.
And he looks back at Valor Company and the Maethir.
This place is mine.
And he doesn't say anything more than that. He lets the words linger, and then he turns to lower himself from the rooftop. Kane watches and doesn't show any overt reaction. After a moment, he lets out a slow breath.
I see. You keep interesting company, gunslinger.
The enemy of my enemy is my ally, however unlikely.
You would best be wary until you know that they consider you the same. You spoke of another front. The city Kier.
Yes. Though that is perhaps information better spoken of inside.
I agree.
You see he turns without giving Faravax a second look as he starts to head back inside. Down below, there's the heavy sound of wings beating the air as Faravax begins to lift himself once more, taking to the air to do a swooping run around Kaladesh to get a first-hand look at this half-burned town for himself.
Alright, I know this is a long shot. Is Kane a fucking dragon? Can I roll an insight check on that? Intelligence, Arcana, something? Because I'm starting to get concerned because I've gone over information with Rotha about how apparently he doesn't fuck. And
doesn't get tired.
Doesn't get tired. Sets fire to everything. I have concerns.
He's unreadable.
Oh, he's not
unreadable.
Well, I know that, and you know that.
You can give me an insight or a history check.
Okay. And would anyone be opposed to me using one from the pool for this stupid check?
Just fucking use it.
Take it.
Please do.
23.
Okay, and that was insight.
Yes.
All right. With an insight of 23, there was something definitely passed between Faravax and Kane. A certain level of recognition, though, of what you're not entirely sure, and it made you start thinking, these thoughts. You mentioned thinking back to what Rotha had told you about Kane. You remember there's always been rumors about the Maethir as well. One particularly salient rumor comes to mind. And it's not something that necessarily convinces you one way or the other, but you recall that there was a story of how shortly after Kane had been given a small command of his own, that he had located a cult of the Dragon Queen in the foothills of the mountains bordering Mareki lands, and that he led his command in basically purging the cult to keep it from spreading, allegedly. For locating and acting so swiftly, it was one of his earliest kind of accolades, one of the earliest victories that he was able to notch into his belt. So you do find some of the links between Kane and dragons to be a little convenient, but in that encounter with Faravax, you caught a glimpse of something that Taliesin saw early, of that barely controlled hatred aimed directly at Faravax. For a man who has been willing to kill his own people, to lead his own people in civil war, to do everything that he's done without breaking stride, and then to suddenly see that hatred, that rage towards dragonkind is a little alarming. Long story short, he doesn't seem to like dragons.
Is gonna say. And as they walk back, she's gonna be like, if I remember my military history correct, one of your earliest victories was against a cult of the Dragon Queen, was it not?
It was. Did that go through?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool. That was all. He doesn't offer any elaboration.
Of course not. Well, I'm glad we're equally familiar with cults then.
I wouldn't say equally.
Anyway, and I believe we'll head back to the planning room. Say's not gonna push.
He does comment after a moment. Cults are insidious things. If allowed to fester, they will infect all manner of individuals with their twisted ideologies. They are always best rooted out and burned at the stalk before they can spread.
Does Varavax concern you then?
The dragon should be concerned for any who happen upon their presence. They are a self-serving creature.
As long as you treat them with respect. We found that they do just fine, at least the ones that aren't gods.
Therein lies the rub, is it not? For all dragons think themselves gods.
But only one god has died recently.
You killed it.
Once again, stop. We will talk about this when we are in secure chambers.
I would say by now you've kind of made it back to the meeting hall.
Okay.
One of the triplets is leaning against the Mareki guard in the corner that you noticed. This is the one in yellow. The queen, meanwhile, is... it sounds like she's giving a lecture on how filthy and untrustworthy hobgoblins are.
Just talking shit this whole time.
Cultural exchanges, that's what they are. Cultural exchanges.
Mm-hmm. Lucky bastard.
Right, so I think we need to level with each other, Mathia. How much of this story do you believe? How much of us do you believe when it comes to Hectopole has returned? I'm just gonna stop and look him dead in the fucking eye, too.
He pauses next to the table, kind of one hand resting upon it. He turns slowly back at you and meets your gaze. I have seen many things in recent weeks that cannot be easily explained by conventional military knowledge. The existence of the creatures in this town, the weapons they wield, the language they speak, the corruption you exposed at the heart of Alarani lands. It all speaks to a war that I have only just now come to understand the true scope of.
Wonderful, then I feel like I can level with you completely. We killed Velkin last night.
The room kind of goes quiet as all the Mareki turn their attention towards you and Valor Company. Kane seems to study you for a moment and then
Nods slowly.
And if one can be killed, they all can be killed.
I believe that is sound reason.
Kier is currently held by Kelamo.
I see.
Zichny is north, far north, north of Atori even.
That is a considerable territory to cover.
We're not asking you to cover it.
No, you're not.
The only thing we might ask of you is to let the weapon of Talos go to hands that will actually deal with the god.
Now is not the time, Taliesin.
You see his gaze turn towards the bracers that he wears.
You believe you are to be favored by the Storm Lord?
I believe he favors those who win great battles, and I believe he just won one of the greatest battles that he couldn't take on himself.
Before Benito responds, Alistair's going to... With all due respect, Mika, I believe your position limits where you can be and how you can fight this war. We've proven ourselves capable of moving, being the spearhead to drive things forward. Unfortunately, with all of your men and all the responsibilities to your people, I can't ask you to join us as a fellow fighter. We can't ask for your aid. Gestures toward the bracers. Only the relics of gods can kill gods.
Then you ask me to relinquish the sole relic the Meraki have that can kill a god to you and your band.
With all due respect, you've already proven that you were unable or unwilling to use it when it did endanger your people. Yes, we asked.
Say and Alistair, I would like one of you to make a persuasion check.
Say, make that check. You're getting Flash of Genius. +5 to the roll. As that hat gives you the
30.
right words. Jesus Christmas!
Look, Say is a rogue, and one of the things she has expertise in is fucking persuasion. So I will approach it, but probably not from the angle of those guys. While my comrades may have chosen interesting timing for this conversation, yes, we would appreciate access to the braces. As a long-term loan, even, if you will. After we fight Kilamo and Kia, we will be heading far north. Much further north and farther afield than you are willing to go. Sorry, not willing. Than you are able to go.
You see him study you for a long moment and then look towards the map on the table. You recognize the signs of someone doing the calculus in their head, measuring resources, weighing the butcher's bill, considering the extent of the conflict that lies before him and the kind of campaign that would be needed to win this. You see him lift his hands and begin to unbuckle his bracers.
Just like solemn.
In matters of the divine, it is difficult to act with any assurance or proof one way or the other. You say you have killed a god, that you know of how to kill other gods, and that you would put these weapons to use in service not of your tribe, but of the people of this world in general. It is fitting, then, that the situation demand an act of faith.
He finishes unbuckling his bracers and sets them on the table before him. He regards them and then turns to look at you, say, and look beyond you to Valor Company, and then back to you.
I will defend the Mareki. That is my oath, and I have ever lived in service of it. If you have been called to defend this world, then I believe I have the easier task of the two of us.
I would ask you not to agree to anything, but to consider one thing further.
You see him kind of like do the slow inhale, slow exhale of someone who is really on the edge of allowances, but he doesn't object.
When Marek stood on the beach, he did not swear protection of the Mareki. He swore protection for Illyria. And Illyria needs protection even more now than ever before. Not the Mareki, not Kelmar, Illyria. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just asking you to consider that fact. And then I'll turn back to the table.
There's a long moment of silence, and with your back to him, You don't see, but your companions see the slight nod before he turns to join those around the table in looking over the veil once more. We will need time to resupply and recover from last night's excursion here. The fleet will not be ready to move for several days still. And there are matters of garrisoning this town and investigating this veil that need to be discussed. So, about that. And Queen Bean folds her arms and looks over at him. The way I see it, you don't really belong here. Granted, most of you don't belong here. To be fair, we don't really belong here, but seeing as it was goblin hands that built the majority of this place, I don't think I'm far beyond my station in saying we got a bit of a claim here. And it just so happens that we are willing to take on the burden of responsibility for this. And she kind of sniffs and makes a face. Smoldering mess of a town that you have here. You've got boats. You've got shit to do. I understand this. And I am graciously willing to take on the responsibility of organizing things here in town so that you and yours can be free to do what you do best. You see Kane closes his eyes momentarily and lets out a breath. Even for one as reserved as he is, it seems like this whole encounter is a bit much for him.
Before we start cutting up the veil, and while I understand your claim, before we start cutting up the veil, I think we need to have a united meeting of nations, if you will. Those who are in the know, those who are willing to fight, those who are willing to put forth resources. So we can put together a united front.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And from the other side of Kane, she leans over and gives you a wink, say, as though taking this as a win in her favor. Kane nods slightly. We did not come here as an occupying force, nor did we come as liberators, though we find ourselves in that role. If there are those more willing to take on the responsibilities of protecting this place against further intrusion so that we may move our fleets to where it is needed, then I am willing to meet with these individuals to discuss how we are to proceed.
Then, let's move forward with both of your agreements that we will be hosting a meeting of, let's call it the Lord's Alliance. Everything needs a name. And putting together some sort of battle plan.
Kane nods.
I'll reach out to Skyhammer.
Elaine, who has kind of sunk back amongst the Valor Company, leans over to Alistair. The Lord's Alliance. I like that.
It's got a good ring to it.
It does. It's very regal.
Maybe a bit too regal. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I mean, technically,
There's a queen and a war leader of an Illyrian tribe.
Yeah, Fairfax is kind of a lord too.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Don't not call him a lord. I mean, he's pretty much, a ridiculous.
Oh, yes. Exactly.
So I believe the plan as it stands now is to take at least a day or so to gather resources, supplies, heal, and then form some sort of meeting.
Looking over the map, Alice was going to point out to say, would it not be prudent to gather everyone in a central position? If we can scramble people, we could get everyone to get to the command post. Meet there for so long stop. Otherwise, getting everyone over to Kaladesh here takes some time.
Fair enough. I suppose we can move faster than the Windrunners can at the moment.
We do have an airship and a flying castle at our disposal.
We do.
We do.
Methea, would you be opposed to a little bit of travel?
He looks over to you as though the idea that he has come this far from Kalmar means he would somehow object to travel. He just gives you that look of, are you really asking me this question?
Say's barely asking. She's more like just trying to keep him included in the conversation and decision making. And I think he knows that. Like, she's trying to give him some respect. Some fig leaf of respect to cover himself with.
I think at this point he has caught on to this.
We have come this far. What is a little further?
Wonderful. And you can tour Hobgoblin Command. Or rather, our command now.
He nods his agreement.
Unfortunately, I do need a bit of privacy to reach out to the others.
We have secured a suite of rooms that appear to have belonged to the command staff here. You and your companions are free to utilize them as you see fit.
Appreciated. Your Highness, will you be staying aboard the ship?
Well, now that I got boots on the ground, I'd kind of like to take a look around and see what I've got to walk with out here. Provided his lordship, the Maythea, will allow me to. I'm sure they'd like to go over the information that I have to share as well, so we'll be okay.
Kane gestures to one of the officers in the room, who bows to him and steps forward to lead Valor Company to a suite of rooms that they can utilize for their discussion.
I assume someone's grabbing the bracers. And
I was about to say, like Talison's looking at them and reaches for them, but then stops.
Say we'll pick
out
them
of the way
up.
it looks.
Yeah, Say we'll pick them up. And I guess we're going to some private rooms.
Yes, indeed.
Alistair's going to linger slightly as the group moves on, and just, as they leave, he would quietly address the Napier. Thank you, Your Lordship. And follow.
All right, say for the moment you can add the Stormforged bracers to your inventory. I don't believe I have an item card prepared for that.
Don't think you were expecting her to roll 30.
Didn't make the card.
Yeah, no, that was very well done.
Going to fight him.
As soon as the party gets to some modicum of privacy and the room of their own, Alice is going to look down the hall, kind of close the door, and address Say. Are you good? Are you okay? It was intense. And then toward Taliesin. Are you okay? Are you good?
I'm fine. It was a bit not timed the way I had anticipated, but I'm getting used to that with you all. And I'll hand over the bracers to Alistair. Right, you figure out who these belong to.
Yeah, well, sure, right, okay. I'll work on that. Hey, go team. Good chat, good talk. We'll find a cozy corner.
I'll find a different corner because I have to make some fucking phone calls again.
As a quick question, would Mirai actually have had her hand held by Taliesin that most of that time? Or was she not near him enough?
Oh no, that if that's something that Taliesin's hand naturally gravitated towards, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, then he'll use let me double check this. He'll use Cure Wounds because he probably did at least a hit point of damage to her hand at one point during that. And I'm so sorry, I squeezed. History. If you want to know, I can tell you later. Just
what did you think you had me? And she gives you a quirk of a smirk. It takes considerably more than that.
Taliesin opens his mouth to say something and then just stops. And goes silent.
As Say gathers her thoughts, I'm gonna pause for 1 minute because I am dying for some water. There are a lot of NPCs with deep, gravelly voices in this scene, and it's taken a toll.
Yep.
Get a drink. Queen Sabine is the shit. I love her so much.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
She takes no shit.
Tears
the mix straight out of the Mayfair. Just constantly.
I want to say he doesn't deserve it, but like...
We all know he deserves it.
Eventually he will no longer deserve it because his due will be paid. But not quite yet.
It's a good thing he's fire resistant for how many times he's been burned today.
Oof.
Well, I mean, he just gave up those bracers. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that was protecting him.
Alright, I have some water. I am moderately rehydrated. Before jumping into Say's phone calls, gonna check in with the group real quick. How are y'all doing? Your thoughts?
Good.
You've all got time. You've got a little bit of privacy now.
No, I can't think of anything. No, what do you got?
I mean, Alistair, we forgot to note that Alistair probably would have gone to identify the hook weapon, unless it was just going to need attunement from Jaeger for him to know what it does. And obviously, Jaeger was supposed to get the hook weapon, like we had talked about in chat.
I mean, we did have him too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was something we missed bringing up when you asked us what we were all doing in the morning and in the afternoon. That's something that should have likely happened as far as Elaine getting it to him.
Yeah, I'd say that definitely would have occurred. I know that was something you guys were interested in doing.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
What?
Oh, something ballooned on my side.
Okay, so we'll handle that real quick. As identified by Alistair, as you are able to identify this weapon in its basic state, they are, of course, a magic weapon, the chain of which wraps around the user's forearm and ends in the hook. The chain can be whirled about and used as whips or grappling devices. You get +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls with the magic weapon, which has a reach of 20 feet. And then once per turn, when you hit a creature or object with it, you can choose to tether it for up to 10 minutes. While tethered, the target cannot move more than 20 feet away from you and is dragged if you move more than 20 feet away from it. While you have a target tethered, you may not attack another target with the weapon, which is called Absolution. Additionally, spells and abilities that would cause the target to move beyond 20 feet of you fail automatically. Tethered creatures can attempt a DC 16 strength save at the end of their turn to free themselves from being tethered, or you could release a tethered creature at will. And while a target is tethered, you can use a bonus action to perform one of two actions. The first is Flagellate, deal 1d8 psychic damage to a tethered target, or Embrace. You pull the tethered creature up to 20 feet to a space within 5 feet of you, or you pull yourself up to 20 feet to a square within 5 feet of them.
Does that sound like something that Jaeger would want to hold on to?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open up your character sheet.
Okay.
As we turn Jaeger into the Scorpion.
Get over here.
You're not wrong.
And did I hear that correctly? No matter what the creature's movement ability is, they cannot move more than 20 feet away, and they can't actually pull Jaeger. He becomes like a pivot point, and they just get stuck. Unless he moves, and then they have to, like if he's walking away from them, they get dragged. Did I hear that right?
Yep.
The rules don't address situations of like Misty Step or something, so consider that the asterisks on it.
But let's say something was trying to fly away, and maybe bigger. He could stop them from flying away, and
odds are he'd be pulled along with them.
Okay.
Remember that Klinkle slammed this guy into a wall because she had giant strength.
True. I was just that's why I was trying to double check things and make sure like how it worked in general, because having that to like grab Kalamo and just like nail her down and prevent her from flying away is pretty badass.
Yeah.
There's actually a note on the magic weapon that cites the moving a grappled target rules in the PHB. So all that still applies. Jaeger being possessed of powerful build, I believe means that in his hand it's a little bit more effective.
Yeah, he always counts as one size larger for
So that would mean that he could push, pull, grapple a creature that is not large, but huge?
And if he were to become enlarged,
then gargantuan.
Yep. Pretty cool. All right. Yeah. Say, you had someone you wanted to reach out to.
Yeah, Princess Jenica.
All right. Focusing in on the Princess of the Skyhammer Dwarves. Doing some mental calculation. Yeah, that's about what time it would be. All right, you focus in on a scene of Jenica. Sorry, I have to flip through my notes real quick. Oh, for shit's sake, come on. Okay, all right, that's interesting. All right, admittedly, going to help me out on some of the finer details because it looks like my notes on Janica's appearance are not where they should be.
Oh.
Wasn't she a ginger?
I believe she was, kind of on the coppery blonde end of the spectrum.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep, she was also a Griffin Rider.
She was. However, in this scene that you are focusing in on, say, she is not dressed in her typical combat armor or riding leathers, but she is instead in well, let's not call it a dress. It's definitely garb more befitting the princess of a dwarven society than it is one who would be out and about riding on griffins. Heavily embroidered, a lot of dwarven rune work etched into what looks to be an actual breastplate that's part of this ensemble. Her hair is pulled back into several elaborate braids and woven together. She is sitting kind of slouched in a couch on what appears to be a balcony. She has 1 foot up on a soft cushion and a goblet of wine in her hand and a bottle nearby. It seems like she has had a day and is relaxing.
Princess Jenica, this is...
Oh, for fuck's sake!
I love her.
The goblet goes juggling through the air, and she lunges to try and catch it and inadvertently bats it completely off the balcony. And she leans forward over the edge of the balcony to stare down as the goblet vanishes into the city of Skyhammer below. Oh, I hope that doesn't land on someone. That's gonna hurt. And then she starts looking around.
So, I'm actually speaking to you from very far away. It's Gunslinger Say Kyrell.
What the heck? How are you... Wait, you're communicating... How far away exactly?
Are you familiar with Smuggler's Vale?
Smuggler's Vale? It's clear on the other side of the mountains.
It is.
The hell are you doing over in Smuggler's Vale? Last I heard, weren't you bound for... Well, I suppose it's not that... It's around the corner from Illyria. Weren't you supposed to be in Illyria?
Oh, we went to Illyria. We stopped a war. Things got messy.
Yeah, stopping a war usually does mean things get messy.
So...
Let me guess, I suspect that has something to do with the tribes down there, the Mareki and the Alarani.
It certainly does.
Ah. Well, color me surprised. I suppose I shouldn't be, knowing you and your kin were involved in that situation.
Oh, they fully disowned me. It's fine.
Oh, I meant your kin, not your tribe.
Oh, okay, yes, no. Yes, they were involved. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we just killed Velkin.
Velkin, the Forsaken Velkin.
Velkin...
The god of this and that from down under.
Yes.
I have questions.
A
significant amount of questions.
I am certain you do. We would like to formally invite you to join a council of leaders here at Port Kaladesh in Smuggler's Vale.
Just why does Smuggler's Vale have a port? Thought it was just mountains and forests and streams.
I mean, sort of is, or was, until... So...
The hell have you people been up to? You've only been gone a few weeks.
So we stopped a war, and then...
Yes, you mentioned that part.
Then we came north, and it turned out they were... Forces of Ruin had built quite a few things here, so we destroyed the gate they were using to bring in reinforcements, and then we...
oh, gods above.
Then we destroyed their mine that they were using, and then we killed Velkin. And they built a port while they were here that we've taken.
I don't even know where to begin with you. That's a lot to digest. Right. Port, Smuggler's Vale, Council of what kind of leaders are supposed to be there?
Well, so far it'll be the Maythea.
The Maythea of the Mareki, the one who just finished warring upon his tribal kin in the south.
Yes.
Oh, great. I've always wanted to meet him. I'm lying. That's my lying voice.
I know. That's it's not a very good lying voice. So then there's Queen Sabine of the Goblins. I think you'd like.
A goblin?
It's like a gnome. They're from another dimension. They were brought here under duress and have turned into our allies. We liberated them.
As such creatures are wont to do, I guess.
You'll like her, actually, I think, quite a great deal. There's the leader of the Windrunners, whose name I'm not remembering at the moment.
Drogon.
He will also be there. Also another recently turned ally. I'm going to probably ask Faravax to choose a humanoid champion to serve on the council. Faravax is a very large iron dragon who lives in the area.
You see Jenica reach over to her bottle of wine and take a swig of it. Actually, now, you can't see the label. That doesn't look like a wine bottle. Who are we kidding? She's a dwarf. She doesn't drink wine recreationally. It's much stronger.
I mean, it could be barley wine. That shit's pretty heavy.
Right, I'm sorry, did you say dragon?
He's a metallic, for what it's worth.
The dragon of smoke. You said he was an iron dragon.
He is.
Oh, girl, the iron dragons aren't metallic, they're ferrous. You wouldn't know that, you're an elf.
What's the difference?
Right, so that's the dragon of Smuggler's Vale.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, I suppose he's not the meanest of them out there. Not according to the reports.
And then probably a representative from the Refuge, which is a small city in the mountains.
Oh, I know about the Refuge. I'm told you're actually not that far away. Of all the places... It wasn't but 2 months ago when you left Skyhammer, and now you're circling all over the place. Well, that is,
Well, I made a joke to a very pretty girl that I would... next I would take Smuggler's Vale, and she thought I was being serious. So then I had to take Smuggler's Vale.
Well, remind me not to make any comments about conquering the damn world in your presence. Jeez. Well... That is a whole lot of information that a good number of people are going to be very interested in. A hell of a time for this to happen. Hell of a time. Huh. And you can see she's kind of rubbing her chin and furrowing her brow as she digests this information. So what with you and your kin crusading all around the western shores of Samara, I'm guessing you don't know much about what's been happening elsewhere in the world, eh?
No, if you'd like to fill me in, I'd be greatly appreciative.
Well, we did act on your information, and my father went to Aster City to try and lend our aid there, but the king hasn't been of the most welcoming sort. In fact, my father's been, detained is too strong a word for such an esteemed guest, but... Yeah, the Asturians are not being very forthcoming with the delegation's freedom, if you catch my drift.
Oh. That's not good.
It's all very polite and courteous and whatnot, but... You can read between the lines. They're on a war footing, invasion and whatnot, too dangerous to let anyone go flying about hither and thither.
Would you like to
All this despite the fact that my father arrived in the biggest freaking airship on this side of the Valifall Ocean.
Would you like to obtain the services of a gunslinger to help with that situation?
Aren't gunslingers supposed to avoid being involved in such situations?
You know what? I have given up being neutral.
Oh dear. That sounds like a great deal of problem for a great deal of people.
Well, I'm going to Asta anyway. I have to meet with the Lord Gunslinger.
Okay, so, right, a lordly meeting, Port Kaladesh, Smuggler's Vale. There's only so many places that a port can be.
Give me just a moment. Alistair?
Hello?
Are we meeting at Port Kaladesh or at Hobgoblin Command?
I think Hobgoblin Command's a little closer. It's in the center of Smuggler's Vale.
Right. It needs a better name than Hobgoblin Command. We'll work on it, though.
It's Valor Command. What are you talking about?
The hell's a hobgoblin?
And I think the giant floating giant castle and, I think the giant's castle that's floating above it will be signal enough of where to be.
Anyway, so, sorry, you can't hear the other half of that conversation. That might be really annoying for you. Sorry. So, there's going to be, there is a place called Fort Valor. We have recently renamed it to be Fort Valor. It's
Fort Valor. Huh.
right smack dab in the middle of Smuggler's Vale. You won't be able to miss it because there will be a giant floating castle on above it.
Begging your pardon?
Right, so we ain't friends.
You couldn't even get through that with a straight face. What the hell is going on?
Sorry. It's... it's all hitting me at once. I do apologize. We made friends with a cloud giant.
Given the last time we saw you, I would have thought that you would have avoided the next giant you ran into. Now you're friends with a cloud giant.
He's very nice.
Most of them are, so long as you don't piss them off.
Right.
Cloud giants, I mean, not giants in general.
So
there's a lot of giants that are right assholes, but cloud giants aren't so bad.
No, they're not so bad, and we helped this one retake his castle, and so he's an ally and a friend. So you'll be able to find Port Valor because there will be a giant floating cloud giant castle above it. And I did not know about your father. I do apologize. If you don't want to come yourself, you could definitely send someone to represent you. That is also acceptable. Up to you completely.
Oh. Right, how often are you able to start this communication thing?
Once a day.
Oh, that's convenient. I need to present this information to my mum. She's a bit more well versed in the political side of things than I am. I'm mostly just trying to hold down the fort while my father's away. Right, She looks at the bottle in her hand. Oh, she's gonna think I've fallen into a drunken stupor again. Right,
you have
I'll discuss it with her. We'll make arrangements. Can you check in with me tomorrow?
I certainly can. You had further questions, I assume?
I've got a shit ton of questions to ask, but how much time do you actually have with this magical form of communication?
10 minutes.
Right, not nearly enough time. I'll make a list.
Fair
We'll
enough.
go over it when we see each other.
Sounds good.
I'm glad you're all right. You are all right, right? And your kin? Everyone all right?
Well,
How's the little ginger doing?
he's a little less squirrely than the last time you saw him.
Oh, that's good. What about the furry one? And the big guy? And the bird? Jeez, you cannot go anywhere without people noticing your presence, can you?
No, really can't. Everyone's fine. Jenna had to go for personal reasons, but...
Right, well, it's good to hear from you. It's good to hear that you all are doing all right. You are certainly an interesting bunch of people to know. And I'm glad you reached out.
I'm glad as well.
You see she's standing up and gathering herself and already starting to move into her suite of rooms.
Best of luck. I will speak to you tomorrow.
All right, looking forward to it. I'll have some measure of plans by then, I assure you.
And I'll let her go.
All right, you withdraw back into yourself, into the stark chambers of Of Fort Kaladesh.
Someone have alcohol?
Yes. I pull out my bottle that got filled with, I believe it was wine, the last time the alchemy jug was used before the magic went away.
Yeah, it was wine.
I think a lot of people actually got some wine out of that one.
I think that's
Allison
fair.
definitely still has this fancy bottle that got emptied and is now full again.
Alright, I'm taking a big swig of that and taking it with me back to the corner, as I'm going to call the Lord's Gunslinger Roland Deshane.
Okay.
Is he traveling
alone? Does he bring people with him? Because, I mean, if we can have him identify things, that'd be, better for your case without you having to go to a case.
So you focus on the image of Roland Deshane in your mind, and you have seen Roland Deshane before. You have heard him speak, all gunslingers do. And you call to mind the image of a tall, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned man with piercing, amber-colored eyes, who also tends to dress in brown and black leather, wearing a long coat and pistols strapped to his hips. You focus on that stern expression, the commanding presence, and you cast your mind into the Palantir. And you find static. A sense of trying to grab hold of something that you cannot grasp, that keeps slipping through your fingers, and you cannot get a lock on him. The more you concentrate, the more it feels like trying to hold on to a pile of sand.
Huh. All right. Do I know people close to him that he would travel with, perhaps?
No one in particular comes to mind. You know, Caden was one of the more well-known higher-ups, but he mostly kept his counsel kind of close to himself.
Right. So I've already talked to Caden in the last 24 hours.
Yep.
I had a gnomish teacher.
Something to keep in mind. Well, I suppose it would determine on the message that you're trying to send. You wouldn't have any issues reaching out to your teachers. But what message are you trying to send?
Well, right now there's a political situation in Aster that I feel like Roland should be read into. So...
And you know that he has already left for Aster.
Yes. I know that he's already left for Aster, but I also know that they were working on some sort of workaround for the communication. So I'm hoping if I reach out to one of the head gunslingers, I could be like...
You just found out about that workaround like the other day.
Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping I could reach out to them and be like, hey, do any of you have a way to contact Roland or a reason that my contact isn't working?
Okay. I can abbreviate the scene for the sake of brevity, because you are able to reach people at the Black Tower. Reaching out to one of your other teachers and startling them just as much as you startle everyone who gets this unexpected voice speaking in their head. You are able to learn that for those among the senior staff do know that Roland travels with protection to ensure that his enemies can't locate him, which does make it difficult to get messages to him over short periods of time. And the workarounds in place have not really been spread out. They're still like investigating and trying to secure it. They could get a message to the Aster Gunslinger chapter house to reach him as soon as he gets there, though. That, in fact, probably seems like the best way to get a message to him.
Cool. So yeah, she's definitely just going to be like, great. So the message is that King Forgefire is being held in a soft prisonership by King Elias. And that King Elias is taking political prisoners now, and maybe he should watch his ass. Which clearly he's already doing since she can't communicate with him, but hey.
That definitely earns a lot of stuttering and questions and the desire to. Yeah, they'll they can send a message. They'll make sure a message is sent. They seem somewhat panicked by the news of the situation in Astoria.
And as always, she will reiterate that she does not understand, she does not have any proof whatsoever that the Albion prick is working for Hectopole, other than bad vibes and weird coincidences.
Well, that is what they hire gunslingers to investigate.
She does have some proof in regards to the fact that they tried to take Elaine as a traitor because the Albion fuck got to Aster City before him and said that he was a traitor working for Hectopole.
Right, that was not a fun time.
Witness account.
Right, but I think the problem with it being a witness account is I'm here.
You go where we go.
Still, it's not exactly a murder weapon as far as evidence goes, so, like I said, bad coincidences and weird vibes. No hard evidence.
Light Song, was that their name?
I decided to name them Master.
That works for me.
Because you like it when I give you the gunslingers' names. I'm like,
I do.
It's Master Trabin Lightsong. He's a gnome. He's the one who told us, who basically gave Say her first fidget toy and went, "This'll help." So he probably also has ADHD, but he's a gnome, so.
Oh yeah, he's playing with like a Rubik's Cube of tactile sensors at the moment. All right, Lightsong acknowledges your message as received. Do you mention your communication with Caden?
Oh yeah.
All right, Lightsong promises to reach out to Caden as well and make sure that they can get word to the chapter house so the Lord Gunslinger knows what he is walking into.
Cool. That's what she wanted to do.
All right. You withdraw, leaving another befuddled gunslinger in the Black Tower in your wake.
Eventually, like, this is gonna become a thing where, like, it's gonna become, like, I don't know, maybe meme isn't the right word, but every time someone gets startled, they're gonna be like, oh, Say talking to you? Like, it's gonna become an idiom.
Excellent.
So, somehow Black Tower's version of Cat Got Your Tongue.
All right. So you've got a message down the pipeline of trouble in Aster. It's actually a good thing that you did call Jenica first to get a little bit of that information. That's going to be very useful to the gunslingers.
Hope so.
So you've got news of Aster City making its way to Roland. You've got news of a gathering of lords over to Jenica, and you've already got promises more or less from Kane and Queen Bean that they are going to participate in this grand meeting. So you've laid down several interesting lines of inquiry for Valor Company to follow up on. And I believe that's where we're going to call it for the night.
Ooh, thanks game.
Thank you.
Now, we are on the cusp of some very big things, so I think the bad news is that this is going to be a good time to take a break. But the good news in regards to Shadow is that we are at a point in time where you guys have room in space to do some forum plays, to do some things in the meantime. I'll figure out... Well, as a party, you all will need to determine and settle on what course of action you kind of want to dedicate yourselves to. Because if you do, just because the travel involved, you're going to want to make sure you know which way you're going so you know how much time has passed. And so I know how much time has passed. So I'm going to look into some details there. I do not have an estimate on when the next game will be. If we do some one-off game, there may be room for one-off games. I am planning to do a short game of some kind during the hiatus to kind of take a break without taking a break from role-playing, so there's still stuff coming.
Well, that's great to hear.
So yeah, there's a great deal more being set in motion right now than I really anticipated. And you secured a relic without any blood being spilt of your own.
Yeah, we just had to shame him into giving it to us.
It was a mathematical question. He could do more good by relinquishing some modicum of control and station. He's a shrewd enough man to know that pride cometh before the fall. And he acted accordingly and judiciously as a king.
I don't know if I would go that far.
Yeah, no.
But
Am I giving you too much credit?
To say that's the version that goes on the flyer.
That's fine. Alistair's not here to politic.
Giving him credit as being a shrewd enough commander to know where the guns need to go is probably more accurate.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have the same, socio-political eloquence, but...
That's fine, neither does Kane.
Woof. You too?
I'm just here to ship. I'm here to ship Riker in yellow.
Yes! Oh, man.
Yeah. Yellow totally Riker him.
Yellow actually has a name now.
Oh yeah, that's right. I can't remember what it was, though.
It wasn't announced because I was harvesting names from you all. Yellow is Tilly.
Hi!
Tilly.
Ah, that's cute.
Tilly's gonna make some Mareki friends.
Tilly's got a way with her hips, let's be frank.
Yeah, the triplets are Caddy, Ellie, and Tilly.
Cool and good.
Queen Bee's personal stabbers.
Pelvic thrusting in shadows chat.
I was productive today.
With any luck, Riker will be too.
Oh, hey.
Anyway, see you guys in the forums.
Yeah. Thanks for game, everyone. I'm looking forward to the discussions. I'll keep you posted on Shadow's developments.